I'm just going to kind of unpack today what a mental health coach actually is. It's not incredibly common, so I thought, let me take this opportunity to kind of unpack what it is that I do. So as of normal, let me minimize, there you go. All of us, we have areas in our life that we want to change or we want to improve. I can't imagine that there's a soul on the planet that would answer no to that particular question. It's why millions of us at any given point are involved in like change related programs or, reading self-help books or blogs, or we're constantly trying to self-improve. But it's hard. This never works for me. Okay. How many times have we recommitted to all the common things? I'm going to join the gym. I swear this year is going to be different. I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to drink less, all of those kinds of things. I'm in the same exact boat as everybody else, despite my training, because this is a human issue, not an education or knowledge issue. Change is hard as we get older. It gets more and more difficult, and partly because we've, become steeped in the way that we think, and it's our thoughts that drive our behavior. And, it's discouraging when we set our sights on self-improvement and we don't attain that. And that's why, partnership and accountability and things like that are so important. So we talk about mindset. It's literally everything. It makes up our entire lives. It's the stories we tell ourselves and the core beliefs we hold. Change is hard mainly because we haven't fully explored these things. We haven't righted what was quote unquote wrong or unhelpful. We haven't rewritten our stories from the past. We haven't adopted or even identified our values and then behaved from those spaces. But once we accomplish this, journey of self-confrontation, that's really the work I do, is helping people self-confront, look in a mirror and say, okay, let's do this thing. That's when we really can change for good, meaning finally, and we change for good, meaning, for the sake of love. What are the ingredients necessary for change? It's that positive mindset, committed to the entire process of transformation, which is incredibly uncomfortable, but beautiful. Identify with specificity the problem or the issue at hand, get crystal clear on the reason you're trying to attain this transformation or change in the first place. I call that your anchor. Define with clarity any potential solutions, and then develop your SMART goals. So I'm sure that we're all familiar with that: specific, measured, actionable, realistic, and timed. It's really important that our goals be outlined in that way. And then we get those practical pieces in place and try to strategize to set ourselves up for success as much as possible, always being rooted in that anchor of why. And then we try to measure our progress. And that's part of the work that I do as well, is as I work with my clients, we try to measure, usually the progress is incremental. And when you're in that process of a metamorphosis, it's hard to discern whether or not you've made progress. And part of my job is to illuminate for you all of the positive changes that are indeed taking place over time. But inevitably, that critical missing ingredient is relationship. We are relational creatures and we need each other to survive and to thrive. But there's an ironic phenomenon happening in our present day that's sabotaging this inerrant, infallible, and inherent, which is, part of our DNA, this need. So it's the isolation and loneliness epidemic. It's really kind of crazy. If you do some research, you'll see straight away that there are plenty of studies and surveys out there confirming the growing percentage of people in the world, despite this ironic connection, we're more and more lonely, more and more isolated. And loneliness has been equated by experts in the field to the modern day cigarette, causing as much, if not more, health damage than something like a cigarette can do. We've got 4.7 billion social media users worldwide, it's estimated, and yet by every account and every metrics, we're the loneliest we've ever been. So, when you think of like, how could this be? We should feel more connected than ever. The opposite is actually true. It's because on these platforms, we're inundated with depictions of perfect lives, filtered faces, and endless happiness. But if you're paying attention, you know that this isn't the case. If you see the same headlines that I do, suicide rates are skyrocketing, Addictions of all kinds are plaguing us like never before. Consumer debt is at its highest. Divorce rates continue to climb, both in and outside of faith communities. And, yeah, so there's lots of headlines there that actually debunk this idea that we're more connected than ever. So here's your ticket off the crazy train. So you take something like self-doubt, which could be the largest cancer in our spiritual self. So what comprises self-doubt is that comparison added with that loneliness, added with the desire to change, but lacking those affirming relationships. But this entire equation changes when we add those affirming relationships and we bring people into our lives and into our efforts that will cheer us on as we go. So getting back to the main topic of bettering ourselves, this disconnectedness and superficial relationships makes positive change very difficult. It's not just a consumer mentality either. Part of our success and sense of worth and contribution is being that support for others. We also need to be the ones championing people. So it's not just being the recipient and the consumer of that support, it's also being the giver of that support. That is our hard wiring, whether we want to embrace that, acknowledge that or not, it is true. And when we are disconnected, we feel that frustration, we feel the loneliness, we feel the shame, we feel I don't fit, I don't belong. And then who can really spur on healthy change from that mindset? This is just an example from one of the best books I've ever read on sleep. Sean Stevenson is a brilliant man in this health and wellness space, and he was working with a client who just could not get over a very severe caffeine addiction. But once they partnered in this professional relationship, she was able to overcome that and remove something that was actually causing some very significant health challenges in her life. If family or close friends are not able or willing to be that support system for us, we attempt to adopt new habits and behaviors, but what other choice do we have? We can join interest groups or clubs as a way to connect, but really, is that enough? I really do believe that we're all almost starving for that true connection, for that deep trust and that sense of being seen, because this is, we were created for greatness in big and small things. And without one another, it's almost impossible to experience that. So as a mental health coach, this is what I do. I partner with people, predominantly moms, children, but really for the sake of the health of the family and the thriving of those relationships inside that nuclear family. I partner with them to identify the areas in their lives that are really sabotaging not just their health, but their well-being. And we try to reverse engineer, kind of go backwards to our earliest point of when did this issue become an issue for you, and try to identify those root causes and then become architects of a new way out and a better way to live. People with anxiety disorders, mental health problems are 3 to 5 times more likely to go to the doctor, 6 times more likely to be hospitalized. So they are in the medical model more than the average person. And unfortunately, the medical model doesn't really provide this space to be heard, to be seen, for your story to really be unfolded before an expert who's willing to hold unbiased space to listen. And frankly, it's not necessarily a criticism or a knock to the medical system. They are there for their swim lane and they do it beautifully, and they're brilliant human beings. So it's not a knock to the system. It's really an additive. There's another swim lane to being healthy, and that is seeking out professionals like myself who can hold that space and listen to your story and have that education and training to be able to discover root causes and extract those and replace those toxic beliefs that led to the behaviors with more healthy, edifying behaviors, so that change is lasting and it's stable. And I do believe that it's this relationship that is missing to the success stories of all of us experiencing better lives. So we do start with the physical. We take a deep dive into diet and sleep, exercise, lifestyle. We take a look at lab markers for necessary supplementation. Everybody's diet it falls short. There's no question about that. Supplementation at this point in the human story is a necessity. So we do that. We take a look at the physical, and once we can get some of that chronic inflammation down, and not just in the body, but also up in the brain, we're able to actually hear the message of there's a beautiful life waiting for you, and here's how we can get you there. And it's really it's an amazing journey. It's an incredible privilege to be invited into the privacy of people's intimate stories, and I love it. So this is all about our mindset. We get our mind strong. We have to guard against self-doubt, anger, bitterness, unforgiveness, pride, and selfishness, and consider how you can best love and support those around you. And then you will in turn receive that from them. The way that we think, it informs the way we behave, informs our reputation, informs our legacy. And I would love to take just 1 minute to just honor Dennis. And I know that we are all just trying to put our heads down and continue on through our lives. And maybe in the quietness and privateness of our own lives, we've considered him and prayed for his family. And but this is the brevity of life, and it is about relationship. And it is really, really hard to be in an intimate, close, genuine, authentic relationship with another human being when our bodies are sick. We're never more self-focused than when we feel ill. That's why we're trying to remove those symptoms from a root cause, in a root cause way, giving that person long-standing resolution. They then can access the soul. It's almost like the body is the least version of ourselves, and we can't access our higher selves while that kind of meat suit is not doing very well. So that's why I'm really passionate about helping people resolve chronic symptoms so that they can access the soul to live a really rich and meaningful life. We don't know how long we have here, and relationship and love is the reason you're drawing breath right now. And I just try to help people be the best lover of themselves and lovers of other people that I possibly can. And that is who I am and what I do.